Do you know the meaning of the word mankurt? In Turkic mythology, mankurt refers to a mindless slave. According to Cengiz Aytmatov, there is a legend in Central Asia, Kazakh, Kyrgyz, Turkmen, about prisoners of war turned into slaves by having their heads bound in camel skin, erasing their memories and identities. The term mankurt was used to describe someone who had lost their native language and cultural identity. It was a term of derision, often hurled at those of us Kazakhs who had become Russified, unable to speak our own language. One of my university classmates, a Kazakh from the south, couldn't fathom how we, urban Kazakhs, were incapable of speaking our mother tongue. I couldn't understand his indignation and instead looked down on him for his poor Russian. It was difficult for us to find common ground. Years later, we found ourselves in a heated debate on social media about the Kazakh language. He continued to accuse us, still calling us mankurts. I tried to explain why we didn't know Kazakh, why in my 42 years I had not found the time to learn it. I told him that growing up in the 80s in the big city of Almaty, we were deprived of a Kazakh-speaking environment. In a city of 1 million, there was only one Kazakh school. Books in Kazakh were as rare as oranges in my childhood. At that time, there were twice as many Russians as Kazakhs in the city. We were taught to love Lenin, Moscow, and communism, as was common during the Soviet era. They erased our memory of our true past. Later, during the period of independence, I felt no urgent need to learn Kazakh. I was comfortable in my country, where Russian still dominated. I can't recall a single instance where this was a problem for me. But then my immigration to England brought many unresolved issues to the surface. Questions of national identity, the pain of not knowing my native language, which was at once familiar and alien, the loss of culture, the severed connection with my roots. One memory stands out vividly. About 7 years ago, I was sitting in a small cafe near a local church in England, watching my 5-year-old son. As I sipped my coffee, I noticed he had made a new friend, a boy with a beautiful name, Alessandro. I overheard their conversation. "I speak Italian because I am Italian," Alessandro said. My son thought for a moment and replied, "And I speak Russian because I'm Russian." At the time, this exchange seemed amusing. On the way home, I tried to explain to my son that I, his mother, am Kazakh and speak Russian because it is my first language. He couldn't call himself Russian since there are no Russians in our family. However, due to his young age, the conversation didn't continue, and I decided to postpone this important discussion for later. At that moment, it didn't alarm me. A few weeks later, we attended a Maslenitsa celebration at a Saturday Russian school. Parents and children were dressed in traditional Russian costumes. The women were beautiful in their kokoshniks. To my surprise, many struggled to pronounce my name. I spent most of the event alone in a corner, observing a celebration that now felt foreign to me. In that moment, I felt lost. When I got home, 1,000 questions filled my mind. How did it happen that I grew up steeped in Russian culture, with Russian writers, Russian music, not realizing that all of it was foreign? How is it that people with whom I think in the same language cannot pronounce my name? Why did I never question where my real history, language, and traditions are? Where did the threads connecting me to my national identity break? All this led me to the point where I'm now trying to speak, express myself, and write. I'm not a sociologist or a public figure. I'm a mother, and I share what I remember and what I feel now to pass on to my children what was taken from me by Russian imperial influence. It is crucial to me that my children never find themselves in a situation where they mistakenly identify as Russian. Now, as I watch from afar the rebirth of our national language, traditions, and culture, like a phoenix rising from the ashes, I feel there is hope. Hope that the lost connection with our national identity can be restored.